there, you didn't hear very much from him, but you saw him. That's Jay Clayton, the new director of national intelligence, possibly. His nomination is expected to pass along party lines after Clayton's refusal to answer that question about the 2020 election left Democrats with serious concerns about how he might handle sensitive election-related issues. If confirmed, Clayton will become the permanent head of the country's intelligence agencies, just 98 days ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. And joining me now, the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland. Congressman, always great to see you. Thanks so much for being here in the arena. Of course, you heard Clayton there essentially refuse. He called it a game that Democrats were playing in that committee. My question to you, is this a situation where confirming Jay Clayton would put the country in a better position than allowing the current acting DNI, Bill Pulte, to remain in place?
Well, that's setting a rather low bar for determining who should be the director of national intelligence for the United States of America. Obviously, he's got slightly more qualifications than Pulte, but that doesn't mean that he's necessarily qualified. But of course, from Donald Trump's perspective, he's perfectly qualified because he's willing to do whatever Donald Trump wants him to do. And that's what that freakish exchange between him and Senator Ossoff demonstrates, that he's going to stand by Donald Trump no matter what, even on just a question of fact. I mean, Donald Trump lost that election by more than 7 million votes, 306 to 232 in the Electoral College, but he doesn't want to hurt his feelings. We saw that also with the Epstein files as he participated in the botched release of the Epstein files and the suppression of, more than 1 million documents relevant to the search. He's clearly another person who's going to go in to work for Trump. And what's really troubling is they're cleaning out that office as they go. I think he just bragged about firing dozens more employees, and Tulsi Gabbard fired hundreds of them. And Trump has apparently ordered him to get rid of people. So it's going to be a shell of itself. And he's not really interested in the kind of national intelligence that we got, for example, about Vladimir Putin's involvement and interjection of himself in our 2016 campaign. And that's where Trump rejected the findings of 15 different U.S. intelligence agencies and said he believed Vladimir Putin because Putin told him he didn't do it.
Congressman, the previous DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, inserted herself into election-related controversies here on U.S. soil in Fulton County, Georgia. Chuck Schumer now is reportedly conducting, or has said that he is conducting hypothetical doomsday scenarios for the 2026 midterm elections, including how to handle voter roll purges, potentially National Guard or ICE deployments. Do you think that the DNI is likely to be involved somehow in our upcoming midterm election? Do you have reason to believe that?
The Constitution does not provide for the President of the United States, much less any member of his cabinet or executive staff, to be involved in the presidential elections or congressional elections in any way. Electoral administration is left up exclusively to the states. Congress can regulate the time, place, and manner for particular kinds of purposes. But the law is set for these elections, which is now less than 100 days away. So the president has no role, despite his ridiculous executive order. The director of the Postal Service has no role, and the director of national intelligence has no role in our elections. The Constitution's working just fine, and we don't need the executive branch monkeying around with it. Maybe you should get back to trying to figure out how to extricate America from his disastrous, illegal, unconstitutional war in Iran instead.
Congressman, have the House leadership, have Hakeem Jeffries or others, or you participated in or held similar doomsday exercises, as Schumer termed them, that relate to the elections?
Well, sure. We're talking about this kind of stuff all the time because, look, I'm out campaigning in the country, Casey, and I'm seeing huge surging enthusiasm for Democratic candidates all over America. I'm here with my friend Josh Riley right now, Blake Gendabine next. I'm in upstate New York, but we see no evidence of Republican activity anywhere. I don't even see MAGA hats anymore, which makes me afraid that they're just focused on trying to undermine the election or take the election through some kind of strategic mischief. But we're not seeing Republican campaigning, and the bottom seems to have fallen out in terms of their public support. So, my colleague Joe Morelli, who's from this part of New York, he's working almost full time on sketching out all of the different ways they might try to replay what they did in January of 2021. And so we're looking at every possible line of attack that they might have. But remember, the president doesn't have any role in it. This is just historically bizarre to have a president, issuing an executive order telling the U.S. Postal Service to come up with state rules for mail-in ballots or for absentee ballots. It makes no sense. And then he wants Homeland Security to be creating a list of citizens and non-citizens with, less than 4 months to go before an election. The whole thing is absurd.
The other story, of course, we've been following this hour is news off of Capitol Hill that there still is no deal to move the Attorney General nominee, Todd Blanche, through the Senate Judiciary Committee because Senators John Cornyn and Tom Tillis, Cornyn in particular, have questions about the anti-weaponization fund and the deal the president and his family struck to give themselves immunity from IRS investigations and potentially other things. What are you hearing on the Hill on that front? And is there anything that you were doing on the House side?
Yes, indeed. Well, first of all, there are lots of reasons to oppose Todd Blanche as Attorney General, including his orchestration of this outrageous cover-up of more than 1 million documents in the Epstein files in complete violation of the federal statute that we passed on a near unanimous basis in Congress. But yes, he also cooked up the idea of the $1.8 billion political slush fund for Proud Boys and Oath Keepers